our table topics portion, and for that I'm going to introduce our table topics master, Rebecca. Alright, Doug, can we please have the timing parameters?
For table topics, I will give the green light at 1 minute, the yellow light at 1 minute 30 seconds, and red at 2 minutes, where you have 30 seconds to wrap up.
Great, thank you. Today's theme is viruses. A virus is a biological agent. This is from Google. Not my lectures that I referenced last week. It's a biological agent that reproduces inside the cells of a living host. When infected by a virus, the host cell is forced to produce many thousands of identical copies of the original virus at an extraordinary rate. My question is for Rick.
Oh, great.
Did you get a flu shot this year?
To answer your question, yes, I did get a flu shot this year. As a matter of fact, I generally get a flu shot. And you might ask, why is that? And I would tell you because my doctor always recommends it and says, I can give it to you now before you leave. It won't cost any extra. But then again, I'm sure it does. But anyway, so yeah, the flu shots I think are pretty good. I want to knock on wood right now when I tell you that I have a current cube mate who has been sick several times, and he is again today, and really hoping he doesn't pass anything along to me. But if I am able to get through this period as I had others with him, I did not get sick, and so I do credit the flu shot with keeping me healthy, as well as washing my hands whenever I think about it, or using some sanitizer. All of those things help to keep you safe and sound and healthy, and I think it actually helps if you do get a flu shot. So therefore, I got a flu shot. Thank you.
Thank you. I only got one this year because my friend is a pharmacist and gave me a $5 Target gift card, so that was my incentive.
There you go.
On the counter side, or the flip side, in technology, a virus is a piece of code that is capable of copying itself and typically has a detrimental effect, such as corrupting systems or destroying data. Oftentimes, we need to destroy data like expired documents, things with sensitive information. Martin, when you destroy paper copies of data, do you prefer to shred it or burn it?
That's an oddly specific question, as all of these questions are. I think, so my preference generally has been to shred them. In the past, before coming to work at Northrop, most of the time I just generally threw it into the recycling because my life is an open book. I really don't care. People know that I got like a B on some math test, or I don't know, that I have some flu shot that I got recently or something. So I just threw everything into the recycling and presumed and assumed that whatever the recycling authorities are doing in order to reclaim most of that paper is the right thing to do. Since coming to work at Northrop, I think I've generally been chucking mostly everything into those little private proprietary bin things that you see, even like the agendas from our, because I don't know what's on any, like if I write a note somewhere or, I feel like now at work, I just throw everything into those bins, and I'm assuming they're doing the right shredding and destruction and all of that stuff. When I filled out my equip thing for the background check, I also threw that in there. So even now that when I have bills and stuff that I get mailed to my house, I generally bring them into work and throw them in there as well, because I figure, you know what, they're probably doing the right thing to destroy everything. So luckily all the paper copies are taken care of. I do appreciate that most of the digital copies of things are much easier to destroy, I hope. I'm pretty good about making sure that when I reinstall a new computer or sell a computer, that I shred all the evidence on it of my existence. So I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but if you just delete your operating system, all the data is still on there. So you have to actually use a separate program to go in and write like ones and zeros multiple times to the hard drive, because even if you just write like zeros to the hard drive one time, there are programs that can go back and still read back part of the data, because if the memory's sitting in there in that one state for long enough, it starts to kind of like sink in. So some programs and some hardware can actually read the data off of a drive that you've even tried to wipe once. So just a little hint and tip for the digital people out there.
That was very interesting. Now I'm concerned. I should go through
Yes,
my
destroy
hard
everything.
drive. Destroy everything.
Avoid those
Destroy
calamitous situations. Doesn't count.
All right. Easy there.
You didn't get one.
A couple years ago, Southern California came under scrutiny when there was a huge measles outbreak at Disneyland, which was credited to a lot of unvaccinated children. Mark, do you think we as Americans or Californians are overly cautious when it comes to expecting the world to be vaccinated, or should we throw caution to the wind and let nature take its course?
Thank you, Miss Table Topics Master, for that interesting question, and somewhat controversial, because I know there's a lot of, well, there's two different camps essentially, right? There's the ones who say we shouldn't do it, and then you have the ones who say that we should. I'm on this side of that we should vaccinate, and I think it's good that we go out and try and offer that help to other nations too. That's how we eradicate diseases, that's how we keep people from dying of basic things that, especially in like third world countries where people still die of really common things that here we've already solved. And we've seen too with the anti-vaccine movement, we've seen issues where we have things like measles outbreaks or the comeback of even, I'm trying to remember, there was a disease I read about recently that they're starting to see a resurgence of that used to be, that they thought was more or less gone, but because of anti-vaccine fears, we've seen like a resurgence of that sort of thing. And the whole anti-vaccine thing is based on there's dangers with it, or that it's going to cause autism, but there's been studies that have come out that show that that's not the case. The guy who claimed that it caused autism, I think, came out later and basically said, I made it all up. That was kind of a fraud. So I think it's a really important thing to vaccinate, because and the thing is, there are risks, but the good that comes from taking those vaccines outweigh whatever minor risks there are, whether minor complications. The complications that could occur are pretty small, and so the benefits that come from vaccination campaigns and that sort of thing are much more beneficial. So I am in the pro-vaccination camp, and that's my take on that.
Yesterday, as I was walking my dog, who is in fact fully vaccinated per LA requirements, and yes, that's right, we're more up in our pets' business about them being vaccinated than our humans. Anyhow, I was trying to think of questions for today, things that rhymed with virus. Virus. And then I lost it. I was laughing by myself uncontrollably, walking along the street in Redondo. Quanice, I want to know, have you ever thought something was really funny, but no one else did?
To answer your question directly, yes, all the time. To pinpoint exactly a certain time would be very difficult, because I feel like that happens to me daily. Some responses that I get from things that I find laughable and share with others are, well, you're crazy, or just a nod or shake of the head. So to think of an example would be very difficult, but I say that a sense of humor is always good to have, and we all have different senses of humor. So we should respect each other's sense of humor, except if it is inappropriate, because that does happen. So I am going to digress just for a moment. I had an ex-boyfriend, this is high school, and I thought he was so immature because of what he thought was funny. It would be traumatic situations or things that would cause like a calamity in someone's family, or I'm not sure if I used that correctly, but it would be a catastrophe or calamity, and he would find that laughable. So I did find a quote that I stick with, and it is, "You can judge a man's maturity based on what they find humorous." So I think we should all laugh, enjoy life, but also don't laugh at other people's hardships. Thank you.
All right. That was it for my scripted questions. Now I'll turn it back over to Madam Postmaster.
Thank you. These were some great questions. I'm sorry that I missed your speech about germs and everything, but it's probably for the best. I was saying I'd probably end up living in a bubble if that was the case. So, I'm the general evaluator, so I'll just move along into the evaluations portion of the meeting. And we'll have two speech evaluators, and first I'd like to ask Doug to give them their timing parameters.
For speech evaluations, green will be given at 2 minutes with 1 minute remaining, yellow at 2.5 minutes, 30 seconds remaining, and red at 3 minutes with your 30 seconds grace.
Thank you. All right. And evaluating our first speaker, Melissa, will be